I'm so excited to have Barbara Courtille here today with me. Barbara, how are things going for you?
Great. I'm really happy to be talking to you on the other side of the world, Todd. Thanks for having me.
I know I love the fact that we can communicate like this through a platform like Zoom and or the podcast, and that it's really an easy way to actually go about communicating. I love it. It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of podcasts. I listen to yours amongst many others
Oh,
as part of my learning and keeping motivated and just finding out what people are thinking all around the world and connecting to other yoga teachers who are, my favorite people, basically.
I hear you. Can you give me a little bit of your background in relation to how you first fell in love with yoga?
Yeah, I started back in the 80s, in the late 80s, when I was, in my early 20s. I had a boyfriend who was a yogi. And
Mm.
I was more of an arty kid. I was into art, always wanted to be an artist, and I did that for many years. But his thing was yoga, meditation. He'd traveled to India and he used to do Iyengar yoga and headstands and all kriyas and all sorts of weird stuff to me back then.
Yeah.
And he's the one who took me to my first yoga class, which was an Iyengar class. And that was not actually a great experience because my first class, I was expected to do handstands and all sorts of things that my body was not happy to do. So, and I can remember the teacher who was an older woman, well, older, probably younger than me now, but at the time, she
Yeah.
seemed old.
Right. Right.
She kind of shamed me, in the Iyengar
Mm.
way that they do. Come on, you young
Gotcha.
thing, you can get up, you can do this. So it wasn't a great experience, that first yoga class. So it's kind of a miracle that I'm still doing yoga all these years later, and that it's basically my whole life.
That's amazing. Was that you're living in Sydney currently? Where did you grow up?
My early years, I grew up in Paris till I was 10, and
Mm.
then I came to Sydney. So I've lived in Sydney most of my life.
Nice. And was that first class in Sydney?
First class in Sydney?
Was that first practice session that you had with your boyfriend with that
Oh,
Iyengar teacher in Australia, or was that somewhere else?
no, totally in Sydney. Yes.
Gotcha. And then from there, then obviously, if you were not enamored and you walked away from that, sounds like maybe saying, "What in the world was that?" What then was your next step, or how long was it before you had another yoga practice experience?
I think after that I did some meditation, and that didn't gel with me as well. It was very strict Buddhist meditation. So I didn't have a great start to yoga, but for some reason I think I ended up in some what were then called hatha classes. And back then you used to do them like in church halls or at, the police center, whatever it was called, the PYC, I forget. Anyway, it wasn't like the fancy yoga studios like your studio. There was none of that stuff back then. It was very much in people's lounge rooms and all that. So I think I probably found some much more mellow, lovely kind of teachers that weren't going to ask me to do anything nasty like turn upside down before I was ready to. It took me many years before I could do a proper handstand with all the proper, structure that you need for that.
Yeah. Do you have a teacher that you can say that you credit your learning to or from, or have you just learned from a whole bunch of different teachers along the way?
I've learned from a whole bunch of teachers along the way. Yeah, I've never been a lineage kind of teacher either. I've explored different lineages. I think it's just in my nature to try different things and find my own way. So I did a lot. I did the hatha yoga, then I went back to the Iyengars, believe it or not. And then I was into Jivamukti for a long time. And then I was more into Vinyasa. Then I was into Yin. Then I was doing sound healing. So I've done all this stuff, restorative yoga. And I just keep going and changing and learning as much as I can and incorporating what resonates with me.
Wonderful. What does a practice session look like for you today?
So this morning I did some yin yoga in bed.
Nice.
And then I got up and did a bit of asana practice. Very simple, plugging into the body, noticing where I hold tension, which for me is generally in the upper body. So I do a lot of work on the upper body. opening the chest, opening the heart. I work a lot on the chakra system and the energy body. So I do some meditation to tune in, some chanting to feel where the energy is flowing, where it might be stagnant, where it might be overflowing. And it's from that observation that I then direct my practice. So it would look different every day, but there are some things that tend to always be there, like the throat chakra is a bit of a weakness for me. I just had a little bit of Manuka honey and did a bit of throat exercises before talking to you because it's always a little bit weak, that part for me.
Yeah.
So upper body, a lot of upper body. I'm quite strong in my lower body. I'm quite grounded as by nature. I spend a lot of time in nature. I like to meditate in nature every day if I can, if the weather's good. So I'll go, I'm lucky. I live near a beach. I live near some nature, bush, we call it here in Australia. And so I'll go and find a rock and I'll do a bit of meditation. And that's really my most nurturing practice, meditation.
That's cool. I noticed I follow you on Instagram that you have a couple pictures of you practicing on a rock. Is that the rock that you're talking about?
That rock is called Swami's Rock. It's not where I live, but it's where I go on retreat. So 2 or 3 or 4 times a year, if I'm lucky, I'll go to the ashram, which is not far from where I live, maybe an hour away
Mm,
in nature. And that's a particular rock where a Swami here in Australia has been practicing for many, many years. So it's got a lot of great energy.
nice. I noticed that you're a yoga coach and mentor. When did that role come into play for you?
I think it probably came into play fully when COVID came along and when a lot of teachers suddenly had to become or realize that they were business owners and that they had to find their own community, their own tribe, and take charge of their own business or their own passion
Yes.
without relying on studios or whatever they were relying on before that time. So that's when a lot of yoga teachers, as kind of had a little bit of a pivot into becoming more business minded because they had to.
Yes.
So there
And
was a lot of demand when COVID came along, when everyone was having, you know, a
yeah,
big change,
that was pretty intense.
very intense.
Isn't it amazing that now we can like talk like it's past tense?
Yeah, I know it's great.
It's really
We
great.
survived.
Yeah,
We're survivors.
we survived on a lot of different levels. I agree. Do
I
you?
actually think yoga teachers did exceptionally well as
Mm,
if we can put them all in a group, because obviously we're all
mm,
different within that group. But
yeah,
as a tribe, I think they, from what I've observed, did really well in terms of like pivoting, changing, keeping their spirits up and keeping the spirits of all the people around them up. It wasn't an easy task. So congratulations to all the yoga teachers out there.
that's a really great point. And when you say like, yoga teachers did really well, what if you had to pick a demographic or a group that you observed that didn't do so well? The rest of the world? No, I'm joking, but was there like something that you observed in your local community and or that you just felt really bad for them or just thought like, "Oh, that looks really rough," or "I wonder how they're going to get through that," or, was there something that you saw that really pulled at your heartstrings?
Yeah, I think parents, especially parents that had to
Mm,
homeschool. I'm not a parent, but I have a lot of students who are parents and also yoga teachers who are parents. And it's just like, wow, doing all of that. I mean, parenting in general is always, I think, a big feat, as
yeah,
well as having a job and having a family and doing all of the stuff. But
yeah.
during COVID, when people had to homeschool as well, I just thought, wow, that is a big feat.
Yeah, it was challenging, no doubt. I'm curious, do you have a background that then when you were able to coach yoga teachers to figure out a way to kind of get on their feet with maybe the Zoom and or business coaching, do you have a background that you've trained in that's helped you to get to this point?
I've had a lot of admin experience.
Hmm.
I was an executive assistant for many years, so I'm very organized.
Yes.
I'm not particularly techie, but I
Mm.
know who to ask.
Nice. At what point had you been working in the digital platform realm? Like I noticed that you have online courses, you have a course called Create a Successful Yoga Business. Did you have something like that in place prior to pandemic, or is that something that you were able to develop on the fly?
No,
Yeah.
that's actually quite new. I developed when the pandemic. No, I wasn't online at all before the pandemic.
Mm,
I developed a chakra course. That was the first online course that I did, and then I did a Yin yoga course online, and this is my third one, and this one's more business directed rather than practice directed.
nice. I saw on one of your Instagram posts recently that you highlighted a yoga teacher in the Northern Territory up in Darwin. And you kind of highlighted how she went from being like a studio manager to a studio owner. Did you travel to Darwin to see her studio and or practice with her?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. So when
Cool.
we were finally able to fly out of the city, which was only earlier this year, I went up to Darwin because
Nice.
that's the furthest place that I could go without going overseas. And also because it's amazing, like it's an amazing place, beautiful nature, the outback. It's really very powerful, very spiritual place. And yes, I contacted her before I went up to say if I could interview her, and also I practice there because when you travel, you need yoga more than any other time.
Yes. Yeah.
Adjusting to the climate, it's very, very hot up there. Adjusting to the climate and the diet and just traveling in general is exhausting. So that's when you really need to do your yoga practice.
Agreed. Had you been to that part of Australia before, or was that like a first time trip?
No, I had been there before.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. I had a chance to live in Australia for a little while, but I did not make it to the Northern Territory, and I regret that. It
Oh
sounds
well,
and looks
it's
amazing.
never too late.
It's never too late. I agree with you. I agree. And and what are you currently in relation to coaching yoga teachers? What's some advice that you give to someone who's then maybe just finished a yoga teacher training program and they're wondering like where do I begin? How can I start to cultivate a yoga career?
If you just come out of training, the best thing to do is do as much teaching as you can, wherever you can. Don't be fussy, because that's the first thing you need to get your legs and confidence in. And you can only do that through teaching. So teach, 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 whoever it is, your neighbors, your family, go and teach as much as you can. That's the first number one thing, because you need to have, you know what it's like. Like it's not easy when you haven't done it before, unless you've got a teaching background. And I think people with a teaching background have an advantage that they've already had all public speaking and all that sort of stuff. But if that's not your background, then you really, really need to get in there and get as many hours under your belt as possible, just for your own confidence.
Yeah, good point. Do you remember the first time you taught somebody?
I was teaching people before I did my training, I think. I used to,
Yeah,
because I did so much yoga. I can remember being in Cuba and teaching people on the beach.
nice.
I think I saw myself as a bit of a yoga teacher before I was a yoga teacher. I must have had it in me somewhere. But in terms of like when I was doing my training here in Sydney with my teacher, Matt Bergen, I was teaching before I'd finished to practice. But I was teaching like not getting paid, just with people that I knew. I wasn't allowed to call it yoga classes because of insurance, or because I didn't have my certificate. I can't remember the reason. So it was just
Yeah,
can't remember what it was.
yeah,
But I was already teaching before I'd finished, because I knew from experience that you need to just get in there and do it. So by the time I'd finished my training, I'd already done quite a few hours of teaching. And my teacher then gave me a job in that studio. So then I just went for it.
nice. And when you started teaching, I'm curious where the class size is like one person, five people, big classes, 20 people. What was the like feel or size of the classes at that time?
It was a pretty small studio, so it wasn't like 50 people or anything like that. The most would have been maybe 12 or 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I first started, I got the dodgy hours where no one turns up. So there were a lot of times when there'd be like, two people. There were a few times when there was only one person. I never liked that. I always felt very awkward about
Mm,
one person being there. It was always very strange. I tend to really like big classes.
yeah. Yeah.
I love
I
the
hear you.
energy of a big class.
I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. I mean, occasionally we have a situation where, maybe just one person will show up for class, and I always try to spin it like, oh, this is going to be a great opportunity because we're going to do a private today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I hear
Definitely.
you. There can be that little bit of awkward sensation or feeling of like, like when you go to a restaurant and you're the only person sitting in the restaurant, you're like, what's going on here? Like, should I be here? And so yeah, it's an interesting psychology to try to like shift that really fast and be like, oh, I'm so excited. We have this opportunity. What do you want to work on? And make it really personal. But I hear you, big
Yeah.
classes are fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And so how far do you travel all around Australia? Like, what other places have you been in Australia?
Yeah. I've traveled all around Australia. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a beautiful place. I encourage you to come back.
I would love to. Do you ever go back to Paris or to France?
I went back a few years ago. I lived there for about 6 months. I went back to Paris, my place of birth, and I really wanted to find out how I would feel about it as an adult to just live there because previous to that, I'd just go on vacation and visit the family and so forth,
Yeah.
run around the country and do all that. But I wanted to just be there, stay there. I went to the local yoga studio every day and I just had a little apartment and I just wanted to know what it would have been like if my parents hadn't come to Australia and if I'd been stayed as a French person. So I
Yeah.
had that experience, which was interesting.
Do your parents still live in Australia?
I've just got my dad now, and yes, he lives just up the road from me in Australia, in Sydney. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's cool. What is the yoga studio vibe currently in Australia in relation to, I'm guessing COVID might have caused people to have to shut down and therefore maybe not everybody stayed open. What is the vibe now? Did a lot of people, were they able to hang on, or has everything shut down and people are reopening? What's the current vibe?
I think a lot of places have shut down. Yes, there's not that many boutique yoga studios around. I've just moved from the other side of the city, so I'm in a new territory where I am. It's quite different, the scene. Where I was over on the other side of the bridge, there was a lot more yoga and a lot more kind of traditional yoga in a sense. But yes, a lot of gyms are absorbing yoga now and a lot of Pilates studios. So
Mm,
Pilates, I don't know what it's like in Florida, but here in Sydney, Pilates has taken over the world. It's kind
wow.
of like yoga used to be like maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, when the
Wow.
yoga
Yeah.
was really hot.
Yep.
Well, now it's Pilates. Everyone is doing Pilates. So some Pilates studios incorporate yoga. I'm not sure why, because to me it's completely different,
Yeah.
but they seem to think that it's similar. And so, yeah, that's happening. And then a lot of the gyms are kind of sprucing up their gyms a bit and making them look a little bit more
Mm, mm.
yoga-like rather than putting yoga in the middle of all the machines and so forth.
Interesting. I noticed
Mm.
that you had made a post about how you were just kind of reminiscing a little bit about the boutique yoga studio. I think it was in reference to when you visited your friend in the Northern Territory, and that you were noticing or making mention that you appreciated the boutique element as opposed to like these larger behemoth like corporate yoga structured places. Does Australia have something like, here we had Yoga Works, which interestingly enough just shut down all of their
I know.
locations. But has there been like a big corporate yoga monster that's tried to dominate the scene there?
Not as big as Yoga Works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big surprise to everyone that they closed down. So you never know what's behind the scenes in these big corporations, do you?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I think there's like some gyms like Fitness First, or oh look, I'm not very au fait with gyms to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah, there are some bigger places that tend to absorb all the things. But yeah, yoga studios very special places.
I agree. I agree for sure.
Mm.
That's cool. And so are you currently teaching classes or more focusing on the mentoring aspect?
I'm focusing on the mentoring, but I'm still teaching. I love teaching, like I love it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to teach too many classes because I burn out pretty quickly
Yeah.
because I give too much. I get a bit too passionate. So I'm very careful about I'm only teaching probably now that I've moved, it's changed again. I had about 9 classes and now I think I'm probably down to about 6 or 7. But
Mm,
in January, I'm going to be teaching a lot more, and then trainings come and this and that comes. But generally speaking, I'm not teaching that much, but enough to keep my finger in and enough to sort of keep, that passion burning for teaching because I love teaching.
yes. I hear ya. It is amazing. When the classes that you have on schedule, are you teaching predominantly yin or do you walk in and mix it up every time?
No, I'm doing half my classes are hatha classes, the other class are half a yin. So I try to keep that balance of sun and moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the most challenging situation you've come across recently in teaching?
Um, I taught at a new place the other day. It wasn't challenging. It was funny, but it did it did make me giggle inside. I was, saying Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog, and then Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, blah blah blah. And some woman just shouted out, "Can you speak English, please?"
Yeah.
So that took me by surprise because I don't know these people. I was filling in for someone, and I was like, oh, because normally I always use the Sanskrit. I think it's really important to connect back to
Mm,
source,
mm.
but I always say the English as well. But she didn't give me a chance to get to the English. But anyway, she probably just frustrated at the Sanskrit. So that was funny.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Like if I feel like I'm honoring the tradition by using the Sanskrit term, but it's amazing how sometimes that really throws people for a spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting experience. And sometimes you can't make assumptions because the teacher that I was filling in for said to me, oh, she said to me, oh, don't do anything too spiritual, no chanting, no this, no that, the other. And I just ended up doing a class like I normally would, like a Om to start with, some pranayama, some asana, some meditation, because it's just a well-rounded class.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the next day, I got a message from the gym owner saying how much they loved it, and she got
Yeah.
great feedback, and so it was like. And then the next time I went, I said to them, "Oh, is it okay? How are you with chanting? Are you comfortable with that? Blah blah blah." And they're going, "Oh, yes, chanting's great. That's what yoga's all about."
Mm,
So you see, you can't make
yep.
assumptions that just because
Yeah.
you're teaching in a particular setting, a gym, that these people are not interested in the deeper teachings of yoga. I think people are. It's just the way that you present it.
Yeah. Good point. Do you come across people who, when you mention yoga, judge you right off the bat and kind of clump you into a category that, if you were talking about like, hey, it would be really great if you come to my yoga class and they maybe shrug their shoulder or give you that feeling that like, there's no way I would do yoga. Do you ever get that? Or do you feel like most people around you are like really kind of hip to it?
I think most people are, oh, look, there are people that aren't. To be honest, I've never been into selling yoga. I've never been the person that says, oh, you should come to yoga. It's great. Like, no, it's like people will come to it,
Yeah.
and they'll love
Yeah.
it or they won't. And that's fine. I'm not into yogas for everyone and everyone must do yoga because, for some people, running is their thing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed on a post you did on Instagram that you were talking about just trying to help people get comfortable with being on camera. You made mention about how when you initially started yoga practice, we didn't have cell phones, of course, back in the 80s, but there definitely was not, well, I wasn't practicing in the 80s. So I can't speak what it was like to practice in the 80s. I remember the 80s. I'm curious, what is your recollection of the 80s? Practicing yoga and I mean, I love the 80s. The 80s is a really classic era.
Yeah,
No one was taking their camera out. Like I'm picturing like Polaroid, or obviously at that point we were like getting our film, taking it out of the camera, taking it to the drugstore to get processed, and then you get that little package back, and there are however many photos there were, and like three of the 24 were like decent.
that's
And
right.
yeah, so do you have any old pictures of you doing yoga from like print film from the 80s? So
No,
it
no
wasn't a
pictures.
thing. It just like
No,
you don't
no
really
one took
care.
pictures of yoga. That would have been unheard of. Like you don't take cameras into a spiritual space.
Yeah. How do you reconcile that now?
Well, now things are completely different. Now I don't even think twice about it, but it's just
Yeah.
interesting how it's
Yeah.
like when mobile phones first came out. Like I remember thinking it was really rude. Well, we all thought it was really rude if people looked at their phones while they were talking, or if they were in a shop and they'd look at their phones while they're waiting. That seemed to be a really rude thing to do. And now no
Yeah.
one thinks twice about it. Like we adapt to things.
That's a good point. Where is the line for you now though? I was on an airplane just a couple days ago, and the person in front of me had their phone on watching a movie full blast, no headphones, and I just couldn't. I was like really just trying to just relax, like imagine this is your son. Well, if it was my son, I would have definitely been like, dude, you gotta turn that off. You gotta turn that down. That's so rude to other people. Like no one wants to hear. Like put headphones in. What kind of like pushes your buttons these days with lack of awareness of other people and their phones?
Yeah, no, I would have said something. I mean, you've got to know when to chill and you've got to know when to act. That's a yogic practice.
Good point.
Yeah, no, that's not on.
Not on.
That
Okay, cool. So that would have got your attention as well.
yeah.
Yeah, of
And the
course.
whole plane and the whole plane would have been on my side, I'm sure.
Well, I was looking around like, is anybody else like, is anyone else like feeling this right now? Yeah.
People just
It was only me, I guess. It was no one else seemed to be bothered. I don't know, but
That's so
yeah.
strange that that person thought that that was okay. Maybe he or she or they thought that they had
Mhm.
their headphones on and didn't
That's
realize because
that's what I
people
thought. That's what I kept thinking. Like maybe they think their head. Yeah. Yes, it is interesting. Do you have okay, so scenario, I'm a new yoga teacher and I need to market my yoga teaching, but I don't like using my cell phone. I don't feel comfortable on social media. I don't really want to take pictures of myself. I saw you wrote a question to pose or not to pose. That is the question. What more were you implying by writing that?
I was just trying to get a discussion going because I work with some teachers who are very uncomfortable even now with all the practice in front of a camera, and you don't become a teacher to be a model.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
So if you, I think if it's, I think there's two ways to look at it. In one way, it's a challenge, just like a handstand's a challenge, and you have to go past your ego and you go past and there's different ways of looking at it. um, I try and say to people, look, if you show your face, then you're making connection. It's especially if you're online, it's very difficult to build a community online if you're not willing to show your face. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but
Yeah.
why would you make things harder than they already are? Because it's already hard.
Yeah. Good point.
So I think, like anything, it's practice because I know I wasn't comfortable the first time that I was not so much in pictures, but like video, like talking like we are now. Like once upon a time, that would have been like really stressful. Whereas
Yeah.
now I don't think twice about it. And the only reason is because I've done it so many times.
Yeah.
It's practice, practice, practice.
Good point. I
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. You have to challenge yourself sometimes so that you can grow, basically.
yeah, I'm trying to do that as well. I feel like being in front of the camera in the past for me was not comfortable, and I definitely did not want to do it. And now that I'm practicing it, I'm starting to have a little bit more fun with it. I recently read a really great book by a man named Steve Stockman called How to Shoot Video That Doesn't Suck. And I think like even if you don't do video of yourself, this book would be interesting because it's really gotten me to look at the perspective of when I watch a TV show or a movie, like where the camera is the camera moving or is it not? Does it zoom in, doesn't it? How long are the shots? Like typically it's only like 3 seconds. Like every shot is like it's constantly moving around. Obviously it's different for every film. And he had a quote in there that he said something, I don't know if I'll be able to get it exactly right, but he said like in terms of building your authenticity, just basically rip your guts out and put them on the table for everybody to see. And that's difficult to do for me personally. How do you feel about keeping privacy, like your private life? And like, where do you find the line for being comfortable or open with sharing some of the deeper parts of your life in that realm?
Yeah, I personally don't share a lot of private stuff or what I consider to be private. I guess that's a fine line, what's private and what's not private. I mean, all my posts and blogs and writings are about yoga. Um, of course, yoga is my life, so that's, it's personal in that sense, but I'm not talking about my great yeah, look, I think it's a generational thing too. I mean, younger people are much more comfortable about talking about all of the stuff,
Yep. Yep.
what I consider to be the oversharing. But that's just my perspective. If you're from
Yep.
that generation, it probably
Yep.
doesn't feel like oversharing because that's what they've grown up with.
Yeah.
So I
That's a
wouldn't
good
be
point.
comfortable. Uh, and I don't particularly enjoy reading that kind of stuff myself. I
Yeah.
sort of feel if you're a teacher, it's not about you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's about you. You're there for you. Look, being a teacher is service. You're serving. So I'm a little bit personally, I don't like to be me, 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 me. Um,
I agree.
unless it's relevant to the person that I'm teaching, unless that's going to inspire them in some way.
Yeah.
Really, you need to focus on your people. So for me, it's the yoga teachers. I want to focus on them, not say, hey, do what I do, because that's just me and everyone's different.
Yeah. Good point. I
Yeah.
hear you on that. That's a good point. What are some of the most common complaints that you hear from whether they're new yoga teachers or long-term yoga teachers with the challenge today with earning a living as a yoga teacher?
I think the main challenge for everyone is marketing, social media. No one wants to do it. No
Yeah.
one wants to sell stuff.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. So what do I do?
You practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Answer.
no shortcut to practice.
So just focus on yoga practice and the marketing side, just
No, I'm saying you've got to practice the marketing.
practice the marketing. Gotcha.
The
If you
way
were to,
that I do it, and I think the way that's effective for most yoga teachers, is to approach your marketing the same way you approach your practice and the same way that you approach the challenging practices, not the things that are easy.
mm,
If asana is really easy for you, then what's difficult? Meditation, perhaps, for a lot of people, pranayama, or I don't know, whatever it might be. We all have challenges in our practices. So it's like that. It's something that's difficult that you don't want to do, but you kind of know that you have to do it. Like, the tapas. It's the
yeah,
tapas.
yeah,
It can't not everything in life is easy. And I understand that no one wants to, I don't want to be marketing either. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't have to. But you learn a lot and you build confidence. And it's really important to have confidence as a teacher
yeah,
because that's what's going to exude to your students. And if you have confidence, they're going to trust you. They're going to feel like they're in good hands. If you're not confident, then,
yeah, yeah. You mentioned that you gain inspiration from listening to podcasts. I think this is a great exchange of information, opportunity here. What other sources do you seek for inspiration when you're feeling not inspired?
Nature, go out in nature and get get perspective. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're only here for a very short time. We're only a tiny speck. It's only one lifetime amongst many. So putting things in perspective, I think, is really important because we get so rattled in all the stuff. I do too. We all do because there's so much stuff to do as a yoga teacher. All the yoga teachers know this. The people that don't teach probably don't realize all the
Yeah.
stuff we have to do. And it's
Yeah.
getting more and more. COVID hasn't helped.
Good point. Yeah, we're juggling way more plates. I had a good yoga teacher friend say, who would have thought when we started teaching yoga, we would also need to be IT specialists, marketing professionals. We'd have to learn how to use cameras and audio equipment. We'd have to navigate leases on businesses or not leases on businesses or brick and mortar versus the online platforms. It definitely seems like we're needing to multitask more.
Yeah. And
I think,
especially if,
yeah,
like you, if you're running a studio, that's a big responsibility.
it is. It's a big one for sure. It requires every single day. Like we've been here 16, it'll be going 17 years now in April. So
Wow.
yeah, it is. It's like it requires like it's to some degree putting the blinders on and just like I'm not giving up. Like, sometimes it's an easy ride, but other times it's not easy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations for being there
thank
for
you.
that long. That's really amazing.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm being really stubborn now. Like I'm not gonna like I will die before my studio gets shut down. Like I don't know if that's like being pigheaded or what, but yeah, I take it pretty seriously now. I'm not giving up, that's for sure.
Oh, good.
What thank you. What other challenges do you hear from your students and or the people that you are helping to mentor?
Yeah, so I think burnout is a big one. People doing, as we were just saying, like if you
Yeah.
do all the things and you want everything yesterday and you're not happy with the results because it takes a long time, as you know, these things don't happen. I think this might be generational as well, like people expecting things to happen really quickly and expecting to be successful
Yeah.
and all of that and comparing themselves to the yoga stars or whoever, I mean,
Mhm.
it's silly.
Yeah.
So getting some perspective on how long it takes to build a business, which is a long time, as you know, you've been there 17 years.
I thank you. I've really been enjoying reading your posts because I feel like you do a really great job of keeping it simple. One thing I find that I get caught up on that I'll trip up on, like just what you said, like if I look at somebody who has it seems like fame, like yoga fame, and it seems like they're doing everything right. And like we don't really know the backstory behind how they got there, um, their struggle and or the ease of it. And sometimes we look at them and we say, there's no way I could do that. Like clearly they have something bigger and better. And I don't know, I feel like your coaching tips are they make me feel like I can do it. It's just down to earth. How do you how are you tapping into that? Where did that come from?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm a very down to earth person. I hate bullshit. And one of the things that I hate most on social media is all these coaches that tell you how much money they make and how they make all these, and they go on about the multi figures. I mean, I don't even understand that talk, and I just think like, how is that? That's just not motivating to someone like me. But obviously, it's probably motivating to other people. Maybe it's an American thing. You tell me. But I hear that and I just think, oh God, go away. Like I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Because not
Yeah.
only is it unrealistic, but it also doesn't make me feel great to think that someone's earning all this money and here I am earning, just a
Yeah.
living wage. And it's like, hang on, really? And you're telling everyone that they can do it too if you just follow my 10 steps and join my thing, and then you too can. It's just like, what? Like, really? What universe are you on? It's not my universe.
That's a great point, Barbara. Do you feel like there's like formulas that people are just copying the formula? Do you know what I mean? Like if I think that person is successful over there. What are they doing? Well, they're talking about how much money they're making and that I can help you get there too if you just follow my 10 steps. And that obviously is a formula that it looks like it's working. Do you ever sometimes I'll sit down and think like, okay, I don't want any formulas in my head. Like what can I do that's just totally inspired in the moment of like personal. Do you have epiphany moments where you'll get a flash and you'll get an idea for something to say or talk about or the direction you want to take? How does your creative process happen for you in the process of coming up with what you decide to focus on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do have epiphanies, but I haven't had one for a while now that you've mentioned,
Are
because
you
I've been,
are you ready for it? No, I'm ready
I'm
for a
busy
new
now.
epiphany. Yeah.
Thank you for putting that in that little bija seed into my head, because now I'm going to have one because I'm due for one. I'm way overdue. Uh, I'm a very like I'm a painter as well, so I'm very creative. That's my whole being is about being in the flow. And when I'm not in the flow and I'm not getting those ideas, I get very frustrated.
Yeah.
But again, I go to nature, always meditation and slowing down. So that's my biggest challenge, is to slow down, because I've got a lot of pitta in me. Like my body's quite kappa. I'm quite grounded and quite heavy and solid. But inside, I'm very pitta, like fire, fire, ideas, ideas, ideas. And it's hard for me to slow down, take the time. That's hard for me because I'm quite passionate. But I know myself. Like I've been around a long time. That's what the meditation's all about. You get those reins, holding the senses, and try and get some focus, some drishti, so that you're not all over the place, which I can be very easily.
Mm.
Look over here, little project here, little project there. And I do, I paint and I write. I'm studying philosophy. I'm writing a book. So I tend to have a lot
Wow.
of things on, too
Yep.
many.
Yeah.
And then that gets the fire going. And then I've just got to go, okay, slow down and just do one thing. So that's going to be my Sankalpa for next year. So each year I have a new Sankalpa. Next year is all going to be about slowing down and doing one thing at a time. And that's going to be torture.
Yeah. Can you define Sankalpa for our listeners in case there's someone who doesn't know?
Yes, Sankalpa. So is an intention, and it's an intention that, to be effective, needs to be in line with your dharma or your path or your purpose, your greater purpose. And generally that's something to do that serves others, not just yourself. So
Mm,
it's not wishing for $1 million or anything like that.
got it.
So
Good one. Good answer.
yeah. So if you're a yoga teacher, generally that's going to be something of service to your community. And so when you set an intention, you want to grow, you want to be aware of your own behavior, your own tendencies, and how you can maybe improve that or direct that, probably is a better word rather than improve, direct that in a way that's really, like I was saying, that the drishti, the focus onto what it is that you're here for.
Yes. Nice. You said
Yeah.
philosophy. What particular branch of philosophy are you delving into currently?
So I'm delving into the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Shiva Sutras and stuff that I actually don't know enough about, because, like most yoga teachers, I was brought up on Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita and the Hatha Pradipika.
Mm-hmm.
I think those were the three tests. And to be honest, I didn't think that there was much else to. I didn't realize just how broad and how complex yoga philosophy is. So I'm
Mhm.
really enjoying digging a little deeper, having a look at, like I do over here, having a look over there, and I'm trying to get some inspiration to write a book. And my book is going to be something very down to earth about how yoga teachers can use yoga philosophy in their classes, but in a way that's very accessible, that's not going to bore everyone
Yeah, yes.
stupid. You know what I mean?
I do know what
So
you mean.
yeah. So there's a lot of ideas there, but I haven't quite, I'm still exploring,
Mhm.
and that might
Mhm.
take some time, but that's okay. I really enjoy it.
Nice. Have you put any words down in the computer slash paper yet for the book?
Yeah.
Are you still
I've,
formulating
I've
the outline or?
I haven't got an outline because I'm not very good at outlines, but I will have to have an outline at some point. At this time, I'm just writing little summaries and I'm writing little things that have inspired me. And from that, I'm writing little blogs. And then from the blogs, I actually don't really know where it's going to go, Todd. I think this is one of those creative things that I'm gonna see where it goes. But I do have
Yeah,
a vision.
yeah,
I do have my drishti. I just don't know how it's all
yeah.
going to come together yet.
What's an insight that you have come across in the reading of either Vedas or Upanishads? Has there been a thought or an idea that you pondered that you found useful, beneficial, enlightening?
Yeah, I was quite surprised that the Patanjali is actually quite different to all the other philosophies that came before him. Like his whole thing about Prakriti and Purusha and the separation and trying to elevate and away from the. I didn't actually realize that that was actually fairly radical in terms of
Mm,
what came before that,
mm,
because it's more non-dualism before he came along, and I didn't quite understand that, even though I'd heard a lot of talk about that. I didn't quite grasp it. So
yeah,
that's been interesting. And the Upanishads have been really nice, because I had no idea about those little. Each one of them is an entire thing in its own. So I didn't realize that. I thought that it was you had to read the whole thing, but you don't. You can just pick one little story and it has its own thing. So there's a lot in there about the Atman and the nature of the soul and where it lives and what it does and how you harness it. And, it's actually quite practical, a lot of that stuff, surprisingly so.
yes.
And with the
Wonderful.
Vedas, the
Mm,
Vedas, you sort of think, well, all that stuff, I mean, no one does that stuff now. I mean, who does all those rituals and those? I mean, I'm not saying no one. Of course, there are some people in the forest somewhere doing that, but it's not really relevant. I don't see the relevance of all those. I mean, culturally, they're relevant. Obviously, when you go to India and when you go to Bali, all those rituals and all that, that's what makes the place and that's what makes it amazing. But in terms of us as Westerners,
yeah.
it's nice to have little rituals. You have your candles and all your elements and stuff. But to that degree that they had in the Vedas, it's just seems not very practical to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good observation. I hear you. I remember someone had pointed out I took a philosophy course with Georg Feuerstein, and he had mapped out how, say, for example, in the Vedas, there was a fire ritual where maybe there'd be like a fire tender or somebody would be in charge of keeping the fire going. And like anytime I go camping and I try to keep my fire going, it's not as easy as it seems because I'll fall asleep or I'll just get tired and be like, okay, let's put the fire out. So like if it was my job to keep a fire going and never let it go out, like that would be a really challenging task. And I like the idea of the storyline of the potential of like say if lightning struck prior to our ability to make fire, that if we were able to get fire, we'd want to keep that fire going. So that's a really interesting idea. But the transition from the Vedas where there was an external fire to the Upanishads started to make this change over into keeping like an internal fire. And that's where the idea of tapas started to generate. So then the concept of, well, from a yoga practice, if I can keep my fire going, internally, like not necessarily just from ujjayi breathing and heating up through vinyasa or something, but maybe even just my motivation and inspirational fire going, that's just as difficult, if not more, to keeping a physical fire going. Once I heard that storyline, I thought, oh, that's so fascinating. Like just heat and how we can apply heat on an external and an internal level.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really nice how you've put that. I think you should write a book, Todd.
Oh, well, let's collaborate. Let's work together.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
uh,
Okay, great. I can offload.
I need help. I need
I'm very
major help.
I'm very happy to collaborate. Oh, collaboration is great. So that's one of the
Cool.
things that's also come out more recently is that idea of collaboration with teachers, which I really like.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot more of that rather than the competition that we used to have, which really doesn't sit well with anyone in the yoga world.
I agree, Barbara. One thing I remember I got like there was a point I have a group of yoga teacher friends that we'll get together on Zoom and we'll just like what did you come across today? Like what happened in class today? And we'll just share stories and ideas just to keep ourselves motivated. And within this group, there was this like, let's stop posting pictures of ourselves doing poses. And I was like, well, what the heck else am I going to actually take a picture of to convey? And around that time, I started doing this podcast, and I feel like now I can like, I'll be able to put you on my Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, and feature you. And I'm having more fun featuring other people. I don't know. Do you find that too? I think in the collaboration element, it's nice. It's fun to or exciting to lift other people up instead of it always
Yeah.
just be about me. Look at me, look at me, look at my this, look at my that. It's just like after a while, it gets so boring.
It's fantastic to lift other people up. I do that on my YouTube channel. So I
Mm,
always interview. I try and find people that have something that they can teach that's a little bit different. That might interest other yoga teachers. And it's great to prop people. I mean, isn't that why we're teachers? Because we want to help other people. I mean, that's just our nature, isn't it?
agreed. Agreed. Barbara, what is your YouTube channel? Your name?
Uh, yeah, I think it's just Barbara Courtille Yoga.
Cool. So on there, are you doing like interviews like this, or are you doing it with somebody in the room and conversing? Are you doing them more Zoom style, or are you doing them in person with people, or both?
Most of them have been on Zoom. I've done a few,
Cool.
like if I've gone to see someone live. Um, but usually I do them on Zoom because it's
Nice.
people from around the world. And it's usually I try and keep them like 20 minutes, half
Yep.
an hour max,
Yep.
so that it's
Yep.
it's doable for my audience. And usually it's someone that's doing something a little bit different or that has something to teach other teachers or
Yeah.
yeah, have a look. Maybe you can come on there.
Well, that'd be great. I'd love to. Speaking of
Great.
20 minutes, we've been on for 52 minutes and and sometimes people will say to me like, "Todd, you should probably do well, not every, but I've had critique or feedback like I just don't have enough time to listen for an hour." What I always find is like I feel like we're just getting warmed up. Or I mean, you've been doing a great job thus far, but like usually like it takes an hour to get into some good nitty-gritty conversation. So I hear you. I hear you. Like the amount of time, like this idea of like even making like TikToks and Instagram reels where it's like don't make them any longer than 5 or 6 seconds. And it's like, holy cow, how can I how can I tell a beginning, a middle, and an end in 5 seconds? But that was
Are
something
you
that's
on are you on TikTok?
I am, because I have
Oh,
I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. So I got on there before they did because I thought this is the one time dad's gonna be ahead of these guys with the curve. So I got TikTok going. Just because I know, I don't let my daughter have a TikTok account yet. Cause like at 9, I'm like, she came in the other day and I was like, Dad, can I get a Snapchat account? And I don't have Snapchat. So I was like, I'm like, well, who? She's like, well, this friend's on it. This friend's on it. This other friend's on it. So I'm like, I text one of the friends' mom and I said, is it true? Is your daughter on Snapchat? One was like, oh, heck no. No way. I'm not letting my daughter on there. I'm like, okay, Priya, she's not on it. So that was not correct information. And then her other friend, her mom was like, yeah, why? What's wrong? And I was like, no, no, nothing's wrong. I just want to get a feeling for what's going on. Like, and so then I'm like, well, let me just go on there and look. And then the homepage came up and I was like, oh no, no, I just can't let my 9-year-old daughter get on this,
Uh,
because there was a lot of like just booty and
mm.
just look at my booty, look at my booty. And I know she's going to get to that. I just want to keep her innocent as long as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Good luck.
I have no
Yeah.
advice for you.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. So you haven't resorted to the booty shot in the Instagram. You're not going to go there. You're not going to do.
I'm not on TikTok because you know what? Instagram
Yeah.
and then Facebook is more like just personal.
Yeah.
I don't really like Facebook. Instagram is way more than, in fact, I've cut down on my Instagram. At the beginning of COVID, I was on there every day
Yeah.
because I was trying to build an audience. I had no audience. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't even using Instagram. I had an account, but I never used it because
Yeah.
I had a life, you know. Once COVID came
Well,
along,
that
I had
sounds
no
good.
life. I had no life. Instagram became my life. And
Mm,
so I was posting every day and I was learning all of the stuff. Like I did all the courses and blah, blah. I mean, that's what I'm like. When I'm into
yeah.
something, I'm into it.
I'm gonna
Like
learn. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the fire. Like I
Yeah.
just go for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I completely burnt out. So that's the other thing with fire that you've got to watch, going back to the Vedas, you know.
Yeah. Build it too big and stick your arm in there and it
Yeah,
hurts.
that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Good
That's
point.
me. So I need to watch that. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, Instagram. So I was posting every day. By the end of that year, I was completely wrecked because too much time on screen and just the
Yeah.
Instagram thing.
Yeah.
And then I cut down, I think the second year to 3 times a week. So that was a bit more, a bit less obsessive. And now I'm down to once a week.
Nice.
So
Nice.
maybe next year, maybe I'll do once a month.
Once
Oh,
a month. I hear
verbalized it.
you. I hear you. Slow wean, the slow wean. And
Maybe
then,
once a fortnight and then once a month.
or you might turn the corner and go, that's it. I'm doing twice a day. Twice.
Oh, no.
No.
Although one of my teachers last night, I do improv, and my improv teacher does a 1 second video each day, one
Mm,
second in
one, sec-
her day. And I
one
thought, oh,
second.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still every day. I still feel
Still,
like,
it's still a full on commitment. I hear
and
you.
you've got to film something every day.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to go there, even though I love that idea.
That's cool, Barbara. So I'm curious, can you, if we start to turn that corner toward closing our conversation together, can you, did anything come up and or not come up that you'd like to speak on and or offer any advice about?
No, I just want to encourage all the teachers out there to just stick at it, take your time, don't get caught up in all the BS that's out there about what you should be doing and how much you should be earning. Just take it step by step, keep your day job, build your community, build your confidence, and just be committed. You need to be committed. And if you're not committed, then maybe you just teach part-time. Just teach a few days here and there, and maybe, maybe that'll last a few years and maybe you'll do something else. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what happens with yoga is people fall in love with it. And it's like falling in love. When you're in love with someone, you want to be with them all the time. And it's the lust, but the lust doesn't last. The lust sometimes turns into love, and sometimes the lust just dies out, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to something if it's not meant to be. Enjoy what it is for when it is, but don't stress yourself out, because yoga is not about being stressed out and always feeling like you're lacking. You're wonderful. If you're a yoga teacher, you're wonderful. You're bringing beautiful things into the world. You're helping so many people. So you're awesome.
Beautiful. That's perfect, Barbara. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out of your day. And you didn't have to get up too early for me on the other side of the world, but you are early. So thank you for sliding the time back a little for me to suit my schedule. I really appreciate it. I hope that we can collaborate further in the future, write a book, maybe a screenplay, film a movie,
Why not? Why not?
some acrylic, some canvas, watercolor painting.
Yeah, I'll do your portrait.
All right. That'd be amazing. All right. I'm down for that. That sounds cool. Thank you,
Thank you.
Barbara. I look
Have a
forward
great
to it.
night.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.